Hey guys and gals, welcome back to my show, Coffee with Lisa. So excited to have you here. And I have Merril Hoge with us, and Merril is guided by his life philosophy of find a way. He's played in the NFL for 8 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Chicago Bears. Worked at ESPN for 21 years and survived cancer, career-ending head trauma, cancer, and open heart surgery. These successes and challenges have helped Merril inspire others to persevere in the face of adversity along with achieving success. A leading advocate for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the American Heart Association, and Safety in Sports, Merril is an active contributor to shaping the communications regarding head trauma in all sports. He's also the chairman of the board of the Caring Place, a center for grieving children and their families that have lost a loved one, and the author of Find a Way, 3 Words to Change My Life, and most recently, Brainwashed. Let me direct you. I'm going to put on a video if everything works properly.
A 10th round draft choice out of Idaho State in 1987, Hoge was Pittsburgh's most pleasant surprise in 1988, leading the team with 705 yards rushing and tying for the team lead with 50 catches.
McGinnis to Hoge, look at him, running out to the left. He's heading for the end zone, and a Pittsburgh touchdown.
Merril, good job, man. Give me some. Great running. Get some oxygen, man. Get some oxygen.
Jim Hoge is kicking our ass, y'all. He's whooping our ass right now.
Merril Hoge did the bulk of the damage, a 2-touchdown, 175 total yard performance that dealt the Patriots their 11th straight defeat.
And hands it off to Hoge. Here comes Hoge over the left side. 35, 30, 25, down the sideline, staying in bounds. He's all the way down, goes into the end zone. Will they give him the touchdown?
Dick, what a block by Merril Hoge, the fullback.
I teach my kids and talk to them a lot about when they're struggling. I said, find a way to win. I always tell them, find a way to get it done, Kori. Find a way to get better grades. Find a way to shoot the basketball better, Beau. And they've been good at finding ways, whether it's practice, it's, asking questions, it's getting help, whatever it is, find a way to get it
Along
done.
with the bald and beautiful Merril Hoge.
I like it. Good thing you said beautiful.
Obviously, I picked Tennessee to find their way into the playoffs. You better be smart. You better be able to learn things and apply things.
Finding a way.
Let's talk a little bit about your story, Merril, because really, Find a Way was a really interesting, captivating book, and a cork board had a big part of everything in your early years. So let's talk about that cork board.
Well, it actually was a wall. It ended up being a wall of cork because I speak a lot and I share this story, but I really don't remember any one person. I just heard it a lot, and I think most people probably could relate to this, that you hear, write your goals down, put your goals down. And so as a kid, I heard that a lot. And but I had only had I had a bedroom and a bunk bed and a little brother, so it wasn't feasible for me to create a sanctuary, if you will. I didn't have my own room, even though I prayed every night that the bunk bed or my brother would disappear. It doesn't mean I didn't love my brother. I wish I had my own room. Yeah. Well, my dad, and actually we had a basement in our house that was just a concrete basement, and he said he decided that we're going to finish it. And they were going to create another bedroom, and they were going to give me that bedroom. So I was like, oh my gosh, now I can get that that cork wall I had always envisioned. So I asked him about the cork wall, and he was like, why? And I'm like, I explained it to him. Long story short, he ends up making me about half of a wall of cork. There's 3 panels, there's a chair rail, 3 panels of cork. So, and it was a pretty big wall too. So it was more than a cork board. It was a wall, but it let me put all my goals up. And that's probably where I refer to my first moment of truth in life, where, you come to a crossroads, no matter if it's something a goal you have, something you want to change, something that, you may be facing a struggle. You got to decide what direction you're going to go, what kind of energy. This is probably where I got the thought process, or it started. Do you control your mind, or does your mind control you? And we always have those critical moments in our life with stuff. And I remember I just put my goal up that I will play in the National Football League. I'm 12 years old. I pinned it up. My favorite player is Walter Payton. My favorite team was the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I had pictures of them up. And it was really then that I started to revisit everything that people were saying to me at that point. And keep in mind, this is probably why I see things through a child's eyes more than most adults, because what happened to me as a kid really is impactful for me today. When I look at a kid or a child, I see me. I see what I was trying to do, and I don't think that I'm far off with what kids think or believe today. Even though I know the environment has changed, when they want to do something, they believe in doing something, they're resilient. And people would tell me one of 4 things when I'd tell them what I was going to do, which is, say, oh, you know how hard that is? You know what the odds of you playing in the NFL are? Oh, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to be disappointed one day, which I've never understood that theory.
No, me neither.
Or it was impossible. And I remember thinking about all those things, and I go back to that moment of time, and I can remember the more I let that consume me, the more I would play in the National Football League is nothing more than words on a wall, quite honestly. And that's the first time the words "find a way" popped into my head. Thinking, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to have to find a way to do it. And I can tell you right now, I go back to that moment in time, the energy shift in me was dynamic. It was just like, I was excited. I felt like I'd already accomplished it. But in reality, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But it sent me on a journey, and it inspired this one word that I try to get people to understand their own makeup. It doesn't matter if it's find a way. There's a bunch of things that can resonate differently for all of us. But what's that one thing that's going to inspire action? What's the one thing that's going to inspire you to go do something about it, do your part in the process? And that's really where it set me on, even though I didn't know it at that time. But what it did is it inspired action, set me on the journey, and I went about discovering anything I could to help me accomplish my goal. And that journey, quite honestly, helped me live a dream, but it prepared me for more important things in life. From you mentioned the head trauma that in my career, cancer that I would battle, and open heart surgery that I faced. All of those tools I learned in the process of living a dream helped me fight to live. So that's really what the book is about. It's a lot of that, and it's still very powerful for me today. Those words resonate with me every day. Inspire action still today. The journey is still going, just in different directions.
Yeah. Well, and finding a way really is where legends come from.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. If you think about your life's journey, and I'm talking about anybody out there listening, watching, they can use their own experiences, and there's something, I guarantee you, that's happening in their life. They're like, man, they didn't know what they're going to do. They're like, I got to find a way to do this, or how am I going to do this? Even that question sometimes can send you on that journey if you don't let it overcome you or consume you in a negative manner. I try to tell people the 2 most important tools that anybody will ever have known to mankind, and we all possess it, is our mental and our spiritual energies. They cannot be tapped out. They are the one unique gifts we have that are not like a muscle where, listen, I could bench, but eventually there's going to be some weights too heavy one day. And the mind and the spirit are not like that. they continue to grow. They become more powerful. They're stronger. You can put things in place a lot faster the more you create habits and in a positive manner. And I've never seen the research. I don't know what the research is for why is it easier, it seems, to just say, oh, I can't do it. That's not me. You know, I'm not going to do anything. You know, why is that? Because that thought process, you know, that's your mind controlling you versus you controlling your mind.
Well, and I think people find that it's easier. Nobody likes the road less traveled, first of all. And the best investment that you really can make is in yourself. Hands down, all day long. Like you said, we're always growing. So it's those internal and external skills that we build on each and every day, whether we realize it or not. But I think the greats, the legends, like yourself and so many others, recognize that they are building those internal and external skills continuously. It's that cycle of continuous development.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I try to get people to realize, you know, you're not unique. You know, like am I anything different than anybody else? No, aside from I've been able to take things I've learned from other people and really apply it to my own life. And I think I've jumped that hurdle many times of I controlled my mind. So I try to get people to go, you have the two tools known to men. You got the two tools that are valuable. You probably just haven't trained them well enough to make sure you jump the hurdle. You know, that you control your mind. You know, your mind doesn't control you. And that's not an easy process. I mean, sometimes that's that can be a bigger challenge than, and I'm not making that, it's easy to do that. I know it's challenging. But the more you learn to master it, the more people and energy and people that you use to help you in that process, all you have to do is accomplish one thing, overcome something, change something with using that process. You realize how powerful it is.
Yeah.
I try to tell people that, you know, and here's how I go about it. It doesn't mean you have to go about it, but it might help you. You know, Walter Payton has helped me, Aristotle has helped me, Chuck Noll has helped me. I find a whole host of things, different books, people that add to me to make me up. But like writing something down and seeing it, wherever you start and end your day, it's still one of the most powerful things I've ever done. Because it does keep you on track.
Yeah.
And it helps you with the process of your mind. You controlling your mind versus your mind controlling you.
When you write something down, it holds you accountable.
Yeah.
If you think it, you have nothing to hold yourself accountable. But for some reason, when you write that down physically or you say it to somebody else, it holds you accountable to those actions that are required.
Right. So here's my board right here. So this is where my office is. Where I sit, you know. So people don't think, you know, you talk and stuff, but you don't really do it. I live it. You know, I live it. That's why I believe it. And that's why I try to share it with people, because I know it makes a difference. It matters,
well, these words on my wall are the same thing. Right. They're just
there's not just one way to do things. I tell people that all the time. I mean, listen, Find a Way has resonated so many amazing things in my life. Doesn't mean it will do it to you, but it might spark something else or another word or something. And if that helps you, then that's what it's about. It's about helping you find your way. That's why Find a Way there's not one way. Okay, it isn't find my way is going to help you. That's not the way it is. Everybody's a little different. You got little strengths, challenges are different. So that journey is going to be different. Yeah. But taking action is the most important thing you can do in the process. I've always interesting. This new league that I helped start a couple years ago called Your Call Football.
Yeah.
I got to be a head coach, and I finally end up putting a saying on my desk. It's the only thing that's there. When a player sits down, and they're going to see, don't give me excuses, give me solutions.
Yeah.
Because I was so used to people sitting down and they just start off with one excuse after another why they can't. And I'm like, wait a minute. What about your part in this process? You've given me all kinds of excuses, but you haven't brought one solution to the table. We're not going anywhere if you're going to sit there and spin your wheels on excuses. We're going nowhere. You're going nowhere.
Exactly. Everybody who focuses on the problem rather than the solution. Or like you said, focuses on the excuse. Well, the excuse is the problem.
Amen. And, so you got to, I think that's that's somewhat, I don't know, I hate to say normal, because I don't think, I think it's easier to think like that versus, hey, wait a minute, what's the solution here? Who's accountable? What can I change? What is in my control? And let me focus on that. Let me give that my energy and my thought process.
Well, which led you into Brainwashed. I mean, your story is one of the reasons. So, the bad science behind CTE. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have not read this book that have got a lot of questions about CTE. So let's talk a little bit about it. What is the number one bad science problem with CTE that is out there today?
Well, I think we can start with two categories. The first one is, now this book was sparked with a Find a Way journey, quite honestly. I was like, I want to find out the truth about what it was.
Yeah.
So the best thing I could do is find out, and I reached out to every neuropathologist that I could come in contact with that would sit down with me independently and be honest with me. And it took me through the United States and into Canada on this journey, okay? So it wasn't just one person, even though I only had one that had the guts, a three-board certified forensic professor out of Boston University, Dr. Peter Cummings, to actually help me with the understanding of the science and explaining it so people understood the truth of it. And the truth of what I'm sharing, I have evidence of it. I can support everything that I'm about to say. I can show you everything I'm about to say. I'm not making up things, which is done. The abuse of science that I have discovered is mind-boggling. The suppression of academic freedom, criminal, if you want to go to that level with me.
Do you think, Merril, that pharmaceuticals and devices rule the knowledge behind CTE, or the myth that you're talking about?
Not in this case. This is an absolute corruptness and an abuse of science from Boston University and the CTE Center. A literally abuse of science, manipulation of science, criminal, if you will.
Let's talk about that. What makes you believe that?
I'm getting there. Okay. I'm getting there. Now, here are two facts.
Okay.
Okay, that you could only use the scientific journals to verify this. You can't go to the local paper.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this, and this a lot of people might go, no kidding. However, I've talked about this before, and people have sent me Sports Illustrated articles thinking that that's a scientific journal. No, it is not. Scientific journals are like JAMA, things like that. And more than likely, unless you're a scientist and you've written a lot of papers, you're going to have somebody probably help you understand them too. Like the methodology is very important in this journey. Now, I'm going to go to what happened in the very beginning of this process. I sat down with almost a dozen neuropathologists, ranging from Boston to LA to Toronto, Canada. All of them said the same thing to me because I said, now listen, what is CTE exactly? And they all would say the same thing. It's a pattern in an observation state. We have no idea what causes it, and we don't know what it causes. And I said, now wait a minute. I've seen article upon article that says linked, caused, football, hockey, sports. And they're like, well, you have over 100, there's 300 cases in the medical journal. That's it. 100 of them
That's it? Like, in total, all over, everywhere? 300.
300.
Okay.
300. Now, 300 cases of anything, you cannot even begin to have any sense of direction, especially when it comes to brain disease. Alzheimer's, to give you some parameters, Alzheimer's have been working on for 100 years. Hundreds and hundreds of doctors, hundreds and hundreds of papers, thousands and thousands of brains, and they still don't know what causes it. So you're going to tell me that a few articles or a few papers, which is a pinprick to what research needs to be done, you have any direction whatsoever? Absolutely not. That being said, over 100 of them never even played sports, never had a history, had trauma, and never had a concussion. Well, that's what leads to Boston University getting caught with their pants down.
So everybody understands who's watching this. So you had 300 test subjects in a focus group, if you will, in these groups, and 100 of them never had CTE. So 200 did and 100 did not.
Yes, those numbers are roughly about those numbers, and it's not a focus group. It's all it's all they have. That's all they have in the medical journals.
Yep.
Okay. But people don't hear about what people don't hear about in the media. And I'll get to this in a second. There's absolute ignorance, and then there's deliberate ignorance, and I'll explain the two as we get going. But that is actually scientific fact. Nobody knows what causes it. Absolutely no idea. Can you blame sports on the other 100? Absolutely not, because it's not a part of their makeup. There's the pattern itself has been found in a 1-year-old and a 3-month-old. Can't blame sports on that. You can't blame domestic violence is what Boston University uses. If you can't put football or a concussion in there, they put it to domestic violence. Now, here's the problem with that. Not one female brain in there. The female gender has been excluded thus far in the journey. So you got a lot of women beating men, which is, I don't know, saying that doesn't happen, but to even put that out there as that's the reason, if it's not sports related, is about as abusive, a grotesque abuse of the Hippocratic Oath as I could possibly imagine, because that comes from people like Anne McKee.
Like, I realize that women don't typically play the heavy contact sports, but they do play lacrosse, they do play rugby, they do play women's hockey. Like, there are women in full contact sports. So that's interesting that there's no women in the study.
So let's ignore them, but yeah, let's already come up with we can blame it on something, and now we have solutions. Until you have done boatloads of research, you can't come up with any type of direction or conclusion, which they have. So, which leads to what happened. The next footer of this whole issue, where there's no scientific evidence, it's nothing but science fiction, is subconcussion. Well, once they started to realize that these people have this pattern but never had a concussion or a history of head trauma, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Instead of just doing the right thing and having integrity and having some moral fiber to yourself and saying, okay, you know what, way ahead of ourselves here. We don't know, and we probably shouldn't have said anything publicly, quite honestly. Our fault. Let's go back. We'll research a lot of stuff before we say anything else. Nope. They have to about face. Now they have to save their backside. So what do? It's subconcussion. And I've literally had people from Boston University get up in meetings going, that concussions don't cause CTE. And my first question is like, well, you're the ones that said it. So show me the evidence that says it doesn't cause it. Because if you're going to say it, you better have that evidence too, which they don't have that evidence. And we then made up subconcussion. You didn't? Well, I challenge you to do these two things. And if a person cannot answer the two questions that I am about to share with you, first of all, be very skeptical they even know what they're talking about, and be really skeptical about their agenda. Tell me the scientific definition of subconcussion. Because if it's scientific, there's a scientific definition. Okay, just so people know. It isn't like, well, there's really no definition. No. There is a definition for it, and there's clarity for it. Why? Because if it's scientific, the scientific literature to back that scientific definition. So you ask them for the definition, and then you say, could you, if they come up with one, you then ask, please show me the scientific literature that defines that definition so we know you are being honest with us.
Yeah.
Most people who come up with the definition, will start stammering and stuttering when you say, can you clearly bring me the scientific literature? And then if they even come up with something, make sure you read it.
Yeah.
Because when you see words like, well, I'll give you an example that I fight with in the media. A lot of people go, what about the controlled study they did in the Mayo Clinic? I'm like, okay, let's talk about the Mayo Clinic, so-called controlled study that Anne McKee's name's on. If you see Anne McKee's name on anything, a red flag should fly right away as corrupt, an abuse of the Hippocratic Oath, and I could give you a litany of times that she has done that. But let's use this controlled study. First of all, the brains are all from a diseased brain bank. That is not a controlled study, folks. Once you get it from a diseased brain bank, okay, so that's one thing that's rotten in it. Then when you understand methodology, and methodology just is how did we go about testing?
Yeah.
And you got to make sure if I'm going to compare, if you and I, Lisa, are going to compare our math skills,
yep.
we need to take the exact same test. But if I give you a graduating course math test, and I take a first grade math test, we conclude those tests, and they go, oh, wait a minute, Merril, you're so much smarter than Lisa is. You would say, wait a minute, he got a first grade math test. I took a geometry graduating course level test. How can you compare that? You would be right. And everybody that heard that would be like, that's ridiculous. You can't do that.
It's apples and oranges.
And this is like apples and a banana over here. I mean, it's so, I mean,
far
it
from
the
each
same
other.
shape.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, you're only in a fruit tree, what you're talking about.
You're in the nut grove.
Here's what they did, and here's what they did. And this is a scientific fact. It's in the methodology, and it's in that paper. Nobody tends to read that. And then when the media hears about this, they want to ignore it, which comes to deliberate ignorance. Because this has been, I've tried to present this to people, and they want to deny it because, you don't want all the fact. You just want to have whatever's going to fit your particular narrative. However, this is the scientific fact and truth. So what they did, as far as not finding CTE, they took I'll give you examples, like a dime-like sampling, they stained it once.
Yeah.
But then the people they find it in, they give a 50-cent piece like sampling and stain it twice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, once you do two different types of testing, your scientific research is irrelevant. It is about as corrupt and abusive and wrong as you can be. They have to though tell you about the processing, but people don't read the methodology. And so what do? They come up with, this is what we found. They don't tell you how they found it.
Yeah.
They don't tell you the corrupt manner in which they did it. They just tell you what it is that they found. And if you don't look at that, then you clearly don't. And their findings are irrelevant. Irrelevant in the scientific standards.
So as a parent, I mean, you have two lovely children, and to parents out there, how do they, who have kids who have contact sports, how do they educate themselves to try to determine whether their child actually has CTE or how can they educate themselves?
Well, first of all, there's no history and no scientific evidence that your kids have CTE from playing contact sports. And don't even put that into your question of thought process. And let's back up before we get to all the things I think a parent should do and can do.
Okay.
First of all, just use some common sense for a second. Mm-hmm. Okay? If you think of all the people who have played some type of a contact activity, now keep in mind, this doesn't just mean sports. When you listen and read what Boston University says, their latest definition of subconcussion is a sudden shift. So, let's use a sudden shift. A pillow fight is 20 G's. Trampoline, any type of trampoline activity, gymnastics, playing roughhousing. How many touchdowns, even you, Lisa, let's just put it this way. How many times did you jump on the couch or over the couch, roughhousing with your friends or your brothers and sisters if you have? Okay, do you know how many touchdowns I scored jumping on a couch as a kid? From 7 to 11.
A lot, because you were trying to find a way.
Right. I scored more touchdowns than in the history of the National Football League, okay, as a kid from 7 to 11. Yeah. Do you know how many sudden shifts that I have had in my life? And that's not even, I'm not even talking about contact sports, okay?
Yeah.
My son, I coach youth basketball. If you've ever coached youth basketball, when they start playing around 6, 7, 8, 9, they just learn how to walk. Now we're going to ask them to dribble a ball. Now we don't ever call double dribble, but we can dribble a ball, and we basically have to dribble around 9 other kids. Okay. First of all, I can't tell you how many collisions I saw there. Worst head injury I ever saw was in a youth basketball game. Okay, we were 10 years old. Kid got caught out from under, hit the back of his head on the hardwood floor. Okay, I'm just getting into literally billions of people have lived and played in an environment and done activities like that when we did nothing for head trauma. Keep in mind, nothing. So most parents listening right now, you had no protocol, you had no treatment, we did nothing for you. Billions of people have been in that environment.
Yeah.
And there's not one person that you can point to and say scientifically, look what happens when you play contact sports. Now, let's look at the environment that exists today in sports. Number one, the thing that changes while I was in Congress in 2009 is challenging Congress to do some type of mandate some type of protocol for kids 8 to 18. And here's why. NHL was doing something. NFL was doing something. NCAA was doing something. But 99% of our youth athletes are 8 to 18.
Didn't have protocol.
They're not in college. They're not in the NFL. Yeah. So I sat in front of Congress to ask them to do a head trauma protocol. Well, listen, a majority of that, I mean, that is in place now. If it's not in your youth programs, it's not in your high school, it should be. And so you're the gatekeeper of that community, especially in the youth program. Make sure it's a part of it. Then you look at equipment that is involved today, the instruction and how we go about the certifications that are part of sports. I tell parents right now, if I give you a choice of when your kids get to play in an era of sports over the last 100 years, if you didn't pick today, you are grotesquely misinformed. You have not the right, proper information with that process. And if you're going to, I guess, this last thing, if you're going to rob your kids of anything, wouldn't you want to know all the facts before you take that from them, that opportunity for them? And that's really why I wrote the book, is really to give parents all the facts.
All the facts.
Not just the scientific facts, but really what you should know about your youth programs, what you should, not just football, but all kinds of activities. You know, the things that you need to know that will help you understand the environment they're going to, and do they know how to take care of your child in case there's an injury, and not just a head injury. We're talking about hydration, bumps, bruises, all the other things that go along with sports.
I'm just looking in here because if I recall, you actually had a list of things to ask. Yeah, questions to ask your football league. Well, or it could be your rugby league, or it could be your figure skating. It could be anything, but those are all relevant to any sport, really, because, like you said, the subconcussion.
Well, the subconcussion. And, you know, what we tell parents all the time too, those lists, and then we also help you in the book. Here's the answer you need to have. Yeah. If somebody goes, we don't have one, I'd be the first one to tell you, don't let them play that.
Yeah.
Because we do know this. We know this, that protocols should be in place across all sports. You know, if somebody does have a head trauma accident, which can happen, keep in mind, the NCAA came out with a chart. This is a 2015. Now, I don't expect this chart to have changed, but what was mind-boggling is how people interpreted it, especially the media. They put out all of the head concussions that happened in all their sports. Okay, now, first of all, every sport was represented. I think the only one that wasn't represented was golf. And I can tell you that happens even on your way to a golf course or while you're out on a golf course. So now, actually, this is not even funny. Some of the most, a dear friend of mine got thrown out of a golf cart.
I was just thinking
somebody
that.
made a turn.
Yep.
And they hit so maybe it wasn't the swing of a club, but the actual falling out of a golf and hit her head on a tree. I mean, you talk about an absolute disaster.
Skiing.
So,
there's so many. Like,
it's so many.
More veterans. Veterans is another community. Like, there's just, you could look at this across almost, like you said, absolutely everything, including falling off the couch.
Every situation like that. So when you look at all of the aspects and where it could happen, if your goal is as a parent, well, I don't want them to get hurt, that's an unrealistic goal. It is really an unrealistic goal. If they're going to live, if they're going to enjoy things, because honestly, wheeled sports is the most dangerous thing your kids can do. It really is, especially if they don't have a helmet on. It is the most dangerous thing. And then the next most dangerous thing your kids can do, until they can start a car and drive, is swimming. There are more deaths in swimming activities and the water activities than.
No, I would not have known that.
Everybody does that. You look at go look at the research of all of the drowning and water accidents. All of the things that happen in the water would blow you away. Okay, but we don't shut down pools. We're not closing pools. Well, you're making things better. You make them as safe as you can. I mean,
you learn
there's
from
no
it.
risk-free in life.
It's like you said, you learn from it. You create the necessary protocols and put them in place so that you can be proactive rather than reactive, and then be reactive when required.
Right. And, listen, and if a parent's going, well, I just don't want my son or daughter even to risk that. I'm like, risk what? Okay, first of all, there's no scientific evidence that your son or daughter playing hockey or football, especially with protocols and instruction and equipment today, there is absolutely no scientific evidence that your son or daughter are going to have some type the pattern CTE later in life. Now, let's define CTE still again. They do not know what causes it or what it causes. And it might be irrelevant in the scientific world. That's why they're observant. I've had many neuropathologists go, hey, listen, this is probably more towards these things than any sport. And this would be very wrong, right, based on all of the cases in the medical journal that never played sports, never had a concussion or a history of head trauma. These things are leading contributors to all brain health, cardiovascular disease, and cancers. And if no parent listens to anything more than this, listen to this. Obesity.
Mm-hmm. You
the
talk
sugar
about
consumption
it in
that is driving, you're right, the sugar consumption that is driving all countries into the toilet and is the poison of the world, okay? That right there, alcohol, opioids, and drugs and inactivity, okay, all lead to inflammation. They lead to all kinds of diseases. Those things are at a higher risk for rotting your child, decaying your child, more than any activity that has protocols in place and instruction in place. They are much better to be in those environments, to develop a lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle to move on with, than to be sedentary and not do anything.
So what is your hope, Merril? You're going across the country. You're educating people on what CTE is, what it isn't. What's your hope at the end of this? Like, you've got one book. What do you hope to achieve from a global perspective?
Well, I'm really hoping to correct the narrative and give people the honest truth of everything. That's what I want. That, I can spark your thought process long enough to just go, I'm just trying to open your mind, not change your mind. Wouldn't you? And I always talk from a parent's perspective because this actually journey started because I'm a parent. I've been coaching youth football since 1991. I've coached thousands and thousands of kids, but I made practices different. I changed how we went about playing and practicing way before it happened. I was doing that in 1991. I was the first person ever to have a head trauma protocol a part of a youth program in 2003. That's why I went up to Congress to speak on it in 2009. I had been doing things for nearly a decade in a manner that made it better and safer for our kids. I wanted to make the environment better and safer for my son. I didn't want to rob him of that opportunity. And
here's a question from Kendall. Kendall wants to know, what are your thoughts on wearing mouth guards to decrease the risk of concussion?
Well, I don't think there's any evidence that, first of all, mouth guards, I think, are going to be, and it's interesting, this is a great question. Let me help. I get excited about this because this to me is going to be the tool that I really think it's going to verify what we've been saying about sports. It's better today, but it's going to be information that really soothes the parent on a daily basis. So to answer his question, I think it's critical to wear a mouthpiece all the time in all sports. The more you can protect your mouth and your teeth, for an accident, the better. I have a dentist, one of my cousins is a dentist, and he's been doing mouth guards for me since I was in junior high. Yeah. Okay, so I have done every mouth guard from the hard ones that clip in, you name it. The league that I just helped start a couple years ago, which was Your Call Football, this year we actually implemented mouth guards. Oh my gosh, I got one right here. Here's a mouth guard right here that we use, and it has these sensors in it, okay? And the sensors in it help us identify how many collisions really are taking place. Like you hear Boston University talking about thousands of hits. Like my son played 7 years of youth football. I'm going to tell you this right now, and I don't need any statistic to back it. If my son had 100 collisions in 7 years, you could buy me for a nickel because of how we went about practicing. But how do you validate that? I didn't have these mouth guards then, so I put them on our players during the process of the 5 weeks that we practiced and the 4 games we played. On average, and I'm talking about a professional environment, and I implemented the exact same rules we did in youth football, aside from we never had any live contact other than the games. on average, they averaged 7 collisions. And there was 7 collisions on a game. 7. So 7 in that whole process. And there were only 2 that we even looked at as those could be concerning. It verifies a bunch of things. First of all, if you're going to talk about the impact of the body, and I can send you scientific literature, there's no way to really measure it. But the best way to measure if you're going to have an effect on the body, it can't be external in a helmet. That's not going to tell you, especially with the helmets today that deflect and absorb impact. The helmets are so good today, it's best to have something internally, which we did have. Now, what this is going to do, you look at some 6 weeks of football, we have charts on all the players that wore the mouth guards. You can see, and we can match it up with the video, and I can verify the collisions took place. And if there was one collision where we happen to miss, we'd get that alert. We'd be able to look at it, and we'd be able to, look at the player and clean up the drill if it was the drill or how the player is playing. So it's an instructional piece of a tool as well. Yep. But what this eventually would get to is it can be on any sport in the country, because it doesn't have to be helmet driven. So women's basketball, soccer, lacrosse, even though it has helmet gear, wrestling, basketball, all baseball, all the sports can have this. And so here's what happens. Lisa, Billy, your little boy's playing football. Kori, my daughter's playing soccer. That they have these mouth guards at school, and after practice with the app, you're able to see, practice is over, and Kori didn't really have anything today. Billy had an impact that says 20. We'll say 100 is a threshold where you look at it, because there's another thing. Ask for this. What scientific definition where there's a concussion? There's nothing. There's areas where you think, hey, this is a pretty big collision. That being said, you'd always want to look at somebody. Those happen very infrequently, though. But you would have that information as parents. The practice is over. So when you hear that the coach is doing A, B, and C, how do you validate that? Well, this sensor really gives you an immediate evaluation, like at the end of the day, okay, practice is over. There's nothing there. And then say there was something. You come home and you're like, hey, Billy, I saw you had a pretty big hit today. Did they talk to you about that? And he may say no. Well, they missed it. Well, then now you're the other part of that process, and you're like, well, let me call the coaches and the trainers and ask them about it. So it's a whole host. I think it will help all sports, especially youth sports, in helping parents validate what we're saying about the game, where it is today, and help them with some soothing information daily on what their kids are experiencing.
Well, and I think, so the mouth guard itself collects, so where do parents, if they want this particular mouth guard, where do they go? Or sports teams that are watching, coaches and so forth? This is
not out for youth sports right now. It's going to get there. So it's Prevent Biometrics is the company. And it's the first thing that's come across my radar, and we're trying to help them get into youth schools and put it on all the programs so they can get the complete information.
Yep.
And
I think collecting that data across multiple sports, across multiple ages, right, across multiple male and female is a huge value to actually determining what is the cause of CTE, what is CTE, how do you define it, and so forth.
Yeah,
as a parent, a daughter plays rugby, knowing that my daughter has been hit is one thing, but being able to understand the data across multiple avenues is a completely other.
Right. Well, first of all, there's nothing that says your kids can play contact sport and get CTE. And even if they have the pattern CTE, that doesn't mean they got anything other than the pattern. And let me tell you what a pattern means. See, they use a disease. Well, do you have a freckle on you?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
Okay. So I bet you everybody has a mole or a freckle. Yeah. Well, do you know that disease? It's an abnormality of the skin. Does that mean you're going to get skin cancer? Absolutely not. Yeah. If we said that every disease, every skin disease is going to get skin cancer, people would lose their minds that you said that. You're getting a heart over that one. Scientifically. What's that?
I say you're getting a heart over that one.
what I'm saying is, if somebody came out and goes, oh, well, like freckles are diseases, you're all going to get, and people have freckles or have a mole, everybody's going to get skin cancer. People would go off the charts on them. You can't say that. People have freckles, but scientifically that's termed a disease. Which why when I met with all these neuropathologists, I'm like, why do you guys use disease? Because when you say disease, people automatically think there's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the term because it's an abnormality. That does not mean you're going to have any. In fact, we all have some type of hours in our brains over periods of time. Some have more, some have less. It means absolutely nothing that you're going to have an issue later in life. And even if you have, it doesn't mean you have cognitive behavioral issues. It doesn't mean it. And there's no tau pattern of any brain disease, which is, now this is people really need to listen to, that triggers a behavior, meaning you become a gambler, you become a drinker, you become a murderer, you become an abuser. There is nothing in the scientific literature that says any particular tau deposit of any kind triggers those behaviors or that type of behavior. Nothing like that, but media spins it as that way. People talk like they know what they're talking about, and they say that, and there is no literature whatsoever that says that.
So what is your hope? So for those who actually, Merril, for those who don't have a protocol in their schools or in their sports teams, is there a template of a protocol that you have that they could download somewhere, they could get access to?
We have, in the book, we have that, and you can go to, listen, Pop Warner has good protocols. Listen, there's the California Alliance, .com program, the California Alliance, group that have, they're redefining the whole things on how to give the guidelines to practice, for contact sports. You got USA Today, USAfootball.com.
Yep.
Those kind of places have all kinds of guidelines for you to help you with your youth program. And if they don't have it, you really need to encourage them to have that a part of their program. And I'm talking about every youth sport.
Well, and I
not
think
just.
You talked a little bit about certifications in sports and whether or not that protocol is actually part of the curriculum of that certification. So that's really important too, that people need to understand that these protocols need to be in place when you're taking your certifications as well, not just as a value add good piece of knowledge to know later.
Lisa, it's a great point. You're right. And then let me add to this. Even those people with protocols in place, exercise them.
Yeah.
Do it. Because see, that's, you can have all these in place, and if you don't execute it, then why have it? Okay, yeah. We have them in place to do the right thing. Nobody in youth sports. You can help. Correct me if I'm wrong. Nobody's going to win a Super Bowl. Nobody's going to win a Stanley Cup when you're from youth football or youth hockey. Okay, nobody's going to win an NBA title or a WNBA title in youth sports.
Yeah.
And people talk about, winning. Okay, winning is not the most important thing. Winning is important. What's most important is teaching kids how to win.
Yeah.
How do you win in life? Well, it's the same thing you do every day that anybody that has a craft and is good at what they do, has a profession at what they do. You prepare. You're accountable. You're responsible. You continue to evolve in the process. And when I use all of these things you got to do to play the sports, okay? I just don't go play youth football on Saturday. We prepare. We practice. So that's why you practice, okay? When things go wrong, you evaluate, you make changes and you improve on those things so that you can be better. Okay, all that thing applies to how you do business and how you try to be successful in life. All of those things are applicable.
They absolutely are. And it's always, you look at the greatest business minds, you look at Warren Buffett, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, all live a life of continuous learning. They're on that edge learning of developing those skills, internal and external, every single day. They practice. They do celebrate the successes, but more importantly, they celebrate the failures, because that's really where you learn.
Well, I'm going to just say this, and this is true. This is actually true in every aspect of my life. this is what I love about sports is you get to help kids learn how you develop habits to be a winner.
Yeah.
You know, and I try to tell people all the time, when things go wrong, here's what winners do. They self-evaluate, they create a plan, they make changes, and move on. Okay? Here's what losers do. They make excuses, and they cast blame. That's what they do. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, in sports, you're going to run into adversity. I don't care what sport it is.
Yeah.
How can we teach our kids that when things aren't going right or you're struggling, how do we self-evaluate? How do we make corrections? How do we make adjustments? Create a plan to get better and execute it.
It's all about preparing them because our educational systems don't prepare them for those skills. They don't. They prepare them for the hard skills, the technical skills, but they do not prepare them for life. We are so busy running around telling our kids how special they are that when they get out into the real world and they realize they're not so special, and then they fall and they collapse because they don't have those skills. They're not prepared for the future.
Yeah, they've never seen adversity. They've never wanted to quit and found ways not to quit. And, you know, that's one of the greatest things I ever had, experience I had. I had a football team one year. We just weren't very good. You know, we got caught between, like, we were really young. After 2 games, listen, my son, who was one of the most fabulous football players I've ever seen in my life, gifted beyond belief. You know, listen, we were around 10 or 11 years old, I think. I think we were about 11 to 12, because we were just before, we were kind of playing the 13, 14s range, or I think it was a 13, 14 year, and we were a bunch of 13-year-olds. So we were in diapers, everybody else had a beard. I mean, that's kind of how it goes, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that's how youth football is. Like, one day they like, you got diapers on, next day, like, you're shaving? You're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So we were in diapers, and we were getting just destroyed. Our 2 games quit. My son comes up and he goes, hey, you know, everybody wants to quit, and so do I. And I'm just like, oh boy, I got my kid, Beau. That's just how Beau was. I was like, so really, it forced me to really look at, okay, how can I help these kids not want to quit? So it started with me and our coaches. And I'm telling you, I lost more sleep in youth football than I've lost on anything in my life. But I finally come up with this plan. I know it's going to help us. I think it gives us our best shot. And I met with them and I said, guys, now listen, if you want to quit, because listen, I know that we're kind of outmanned here. I don't blame you. But if you want to quit, it's okay. Just get your gear and you can walk away. Now, I did that and then I didn't say anything for about 30 seconds because I wanted to be uncomfortable. I wanted kids. Listen, I think everybody wanted to raise their hand.
Sometimes silence is the best voice.
Right. And so nobody raised their hand. I said, okay, good. We're all in. Now, first thing that we got to do is we got to change some things up. I've worked on that. Okay, as staff, we got stuff we got to change. Now, here's what I need from you. I need you to pay attention to these changes because we're going to make some corrections. I'm asking you guys to change some things as well. You're going to have to do some things differently, but this is all going to help us in the long run. We lay out a plan. Now, by the time the season, and I said 2 other things. I said, guys, first of all, scoreboard is irrelevant. The only gauge that I even require going forward from here on out, when we're done practice and we're done with the game, all I'm going to ask you, did you give me everything you had, and did you leave everything out here to get better personally and as a team? And if we say yes to that every time, I don't care what the score is.
Yeah.
And I go, and we are going to be fine, and we're going to get, okay. Well, here's what I love about kids. You know, every day from then on, I mean, really it was, and every kid really was excited. There was energy. But one day, I said, all right, everybody, because I said every day, I go, did you give me everything you had? And then one kid goes, nope. I said, okay. Somebody says,
well, at least
nope.
he was honest.
But it's just all about kids. That's what I love about kids. I was like, oh, you caught me off guard. Okay, well, let me ask you this. Do you feel different today than you did every time you said yes to me? He said, I did. He goes, there's a big difference. I goes, well, they're right there. Yeah. You know the difference in life, Dave. You know the difference between when you give everything you have versus if you don't. And the results, how they're going to be. Now, keep in mind, by the end of the football year, the 2 teams that had throttled us, I'm happy to call the dogs off. My kids are just destroying them. I mean, they're playing football at their, but here's what they learned. They learned the value of not quitting, but the tools it takes when you're not going to, what you got to do? You're obviously going to have to make some changes. You obviously got to reevaluate yourself. Because I go back to that, that's, even as a player, and in life, in business. I mean, people always go, wow, it's them, it's them, it's him, it's her, it's her. No, it's right here.
Yeah.
Okay, self-evaluate. Okay, make changes there. Because that's what you control. Yeah. Okay, if you'll do that, I promise you, you're going to get positive results
and those
no matter what direction you go.
Absolutely. And those are skills that can be taught. You can learn those skills. You just have to have the right mentor, the right advisor to learn those internal edge learning skills. They'll take you everywhere in life, and they're not in a textbook.
Amen. Could not agree more.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Merril. That's the end of we actually went to an hour because we were so busy. So, which is fine. Anyways, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I look forward to, where are you off to next?
I have Philadelphia to speak, and then Pinehurst, North Carolina to compete in an NFL alumni tournament that we're going to win, dang it.
Very good. Well, you can get Brainwashed, and you can get Find a Way on the merrilhoge.com website, correct? They can buy them right there, or do they have to go to Amazon to buy them?
Either one.
Either one. Okay.
Yeah, merrilhoge.com, and that'll lead you to brainwashbook.com, which is all the scientific literature to help you guys, inform yourself. I'm not hiding the science from you. I want you to read it. I want you to empower yourself, and you can buy it on Amazon too. So it's out there everywhere.
Good. Well, and for those of you who are struggling over some of the challenges in your personal life or in your business life, if you can always find a way.
Amen. Thanks, Lisa.
Take care.